Data and Geordi tell Picard they figured out where the breach came from, and they have a plan to use this to their advantage. So now we come to another troubling scene. And so we have Troy and Riker. They're getting ready for bed. This is supposed to be their honeymoon. That didn't really work out. They start, having some sexy times in bed. And then we get this scene where basically Deanna is violated. The idea, I think, it's very shocking because she's literally in the middle of having sex with her husband, and then he changes into Tom Hardy. He changes into Shinzon, and he's talking to her like as if he knows her, and then he becomes the Viceroy, and she's obviously upset. She's saying no, and so we are watching this happen. She gets mind raped by two people at the same time, which is quite troubling and upsetting as a plot point.
And this is the second time we had to see her go through this.
Yes, they had a whole TNG episode where they did the same thing to her.
Exact same thing.
It is like only the second time or whatever, but it feels like it's happened so much to her. Like it just feels like it happened, like the only time there was ever any kind of plot involving Troy, it was because someone is violating her in her mind. It's like, no, stop it. I know that's not right, but it's just because it's like, it's so, it's not graphic, but it's like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's
very jarring. It's jarring. And it is very intense because, besides the fact that they've, invaded her mind, she believes that, not to get too graphic, but she's in the middle of having sex with her husband, right? We can imagine he might even be inside of her, and now she thinks it's a different person inside of her. So besides being mentally violated, she feels physically violated, as if somebody forced themselves physically on her. So it is quite jarring to watch this scene. Yeah, and again, do I want to see movies where the plot involves a major plot point is a woman getting raped, and then she can somehow use that later on to save the day? Not really, but here we are with this movie. And so then she we see that it's the Viceroy. He's using telepathic skills to project Shinzon into her mind. Certainly the Romulans and the Vulcans do share telepathic abilities, just like Betazoids do. They lose the connection, but of course we find out not for long. In sickbay, Deanna's getting checked out by the doctor. She says that she was mentally violated. She tells the captain that she wants to be relieved of duties, and he's like, nah, you gotta keep working because I need you to work. And I didn't really care for that either. Very much. She's a victim of an assault, and
but it's not even like just, oh, yeah, I need you to go back to your job. It's, I need you to stay linked with this guy because we might need it later. Like, it's even worse than just get back to work. It's very upsetting. It's like, it's not good.
Sometimes
I care about your feelings, but right now I don't. We need to get this done. Like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did not care for that as a plot point either, that she has to stay connected to this. Basically, she has to stay in contact with her rapist so that she can save the ship. Did not care for that at all.
And she doesn't even get to be the one that completely saves the day either.
No, because women can't do that, silly bunny. Anyway,
funny.
So, mid-sentence of Picard not being cool, he gets beamed away, and Riker's like, raise the shields, Mr. Worf. So Shinzon has kidnapped Captain Picard. He tells us that B4 was left as bait for them to pick up. I feel like this is a little bit where the plot begins to unravel a little bit, because there's a lot of questions. How did they find B4? Where did they find him? How did they know enough about cybernetics to alter him and and then leave him on this random planet to be found. I feel like there's a big plot hole here, or a lot, at least unanswered question.
They built a gigantic, crazy ship full of all kinds of technology in secret. They can find an android and spruce him up.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right, except for the fact that all you have to do is shift that here's what the plot unravels to the very first scene where we see that ship and see how advanced it is over anything we've seen before. And where did that come from? You know, this was allowed to be built and researched and developed right in the nose of Romulus.
And
like,
it was
no.
so big. How could he have a secret base that was that big?
It was cloaked.
I
know.
Your
the facility was cloaked.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That answers a lot of questions in the Star Trek universe.
It does.
Cloaking. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Faye, did you have any thoughts here to jump in on what we're talking about?
I actually think it starts to unravel just, well, yeah, like right at the beginning, but at the point where, as far as we are aware, Shinzon doesn't actually know that they're on to him yet. So why does he start to suddenly put into place things like attacking Deanna? There is absolutely no need for him to do that, apart from it being a plot point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he also thinks she's hot, remember?
Yeah, she has nice hair. He has hair jealousy. He can get a wig.
Yeah, I just think that was a flex of his power. Obviously, it was conveniently placed for the plot of the movie, but his drive and his reason for that had nothing to do with the greater battle. It was just completely selfish.
I would sort of more understand it if it was just motivated by the Viceroy and not by Shinzon at all. Like, the Shinzon being involved in it at all makes no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't go towards his motivations at all. Like,
well, it goes towards one of his motivations that just not has anything to do with the movie whatsoever.
In terms of editing, if they you know the bit where B4 suddenly starts hacking into the computer? If they put that after Shinzon and Picard having dinner and had that as Deanna's violation being the distraction for B4 being able to hack the computer, that would make more sense to me.
Yeah, it's two completely separate
Random
incidents. They're not connected. Like, it's not like one thing is a decoy or a distraction for the other. I honestly think I think we're just supposed to think that he's just so creepy and gross that he just wants to violate this woman. Like,
we're also supposed to think he's like Picard. Are we supposed to think that Picard's had the potential to be this creepy and gross? Like,
yeah.
It's so problematic. And
it is, yeah.
And where was my brain going? There is a bit earlier on when they're talking about the Remans, and they sort of talk about them as if they were like cannon fodder. They were the infantry that went in first.
Right.
So they shouldn't have separate technology, and any technology that they have should be Romulan based.
Yes, absolutely.
So why is it so different? I don't understand why it's so different. I also don't understand why he's basically dressed like a potato in tinfoil. Why is he not dressed like infantry? Nobody's dressed like this race that's supposed to be bred for dilithium mines and being sent out first.
Yeah. There's a lot about the Remans here that does not add up, and perhaps I was giving this movie more credit up till now to say that it's now that the plot begins to devolve when actually it seems to have devolved from the very beginning. But you're right, there are a lot of things here that just don't seem to add up. Even like later on when they're in a space battle and Shinzon tricks one of the Romulan warbirds he says, deactivate our aft cloak only. I had no clue they could do that. Like, that's a new thing. Like, usually it's just you cloak your whole ship or you cloak none of the ship. I didn't know that this had separate parts that could cloak and decloak. And
Rebecca, you know nothing about the 24th century. I'm sorry.
Clearly, I am an idiot. I am B4. I don't know anything about anything.
Damn.
Come on, get with the future.
Can someone
seriously
plug their brain into my brain and give me some input to like help me get better? I don't know.
That's actually one of the 20 things in that article that they got right in Star Trek that now exists. You can decloak certain parts of your ship now.
I'm getting
I
that.
You meant plugging
right
up
now.
two people's brains. I was going to say, Rebecca, I'll bring my USB cord.
Oh, good. You just plug into the back of my head and just let me, download all that stuff. Very confusing, but somehow the Remans found B4, knew what he was, and left him as a clue and to draw the Enterprise in.
It's way
and of
too
course,
much of a long con for it to seem so sudden.
A very long con to get, and the whole thing was that they basically had him hacking into the computer to download like star charts and stuff to find out where the fleet was, which again, if you can cloak yourself and you have zero emissions, no way to track you, why do you need to know where the fleet is? You could just sneak past everybody and get straight to Earth, decloak above Europe, and pa-pow! You destroy Earth. Like, I mean, it's doesn't seem to make a lot of sense again, but here we go. There's a little bit more talk here about how these two men are mirrors for each other of what each one could be if given the opportunity or given the right circumstances. But that Shinzon says that they will not bow to the Federation. Back on the Scimitar, B4 is actually Data. Data has snuck on board, pretending to be B4. He frees Picard, tells him this whole ship is a Theleron generator. It'll basically, it's one giant weapon. They can't let Shinzon use it, obviously, because it's an incredibly dangerous weapon. There is a quick scene here where the Viceroy tells Shinzon that it's time to start the procedure, and I wrote, I hope it involves fixing Tom Hardy's teeth.
Damn, that's brutal.
I'm so glad you noticed it, too. Like, I mean, you kind of said something, but you actually put it in your notes. Oh, thank you.
Did you notice, though, that suddenly he seems to have developed a full set of top teeth at this point?
Yes. Halfway through.
And I've never been so annoyed by something in my life.
It's like Will Ferrell.
The film was watch the top half of his mouth, waiting for them to fall out.
Well, like Will Ferrell is like that. Like you see his bottom teeth all the time, and then when I see his top teeth, I'm like, what happened? That's right. So that's like, I'm not used to that.
Okay, so we've got Picard and Data moving through the Romulan ship. They're looking for an escape route. Shinzon discovers that Picard has escaped, orders the guard that was watching him to be killed. We get like a firefight in the corridor where Picard's holding the Remans at bay. Data's trying to crack the access code into the shuttle bay. They get into the shuttle bay, but they cannot get out because there's a force field around the exit. So Picard says, well, guess what? I guess we'll take the shuttle through the ship, which they do, and out a window, and which apparently I guess there's no shields up, okay? And out a window, and the Enterprise beams them on board. We are back at the Romulan Senate, and everybody is still whining about how nothing is happening. And Shinzon's like, in just 2 days, the Federation will be crippled. And they're like, okay, but what's wrong with your face? And so
you got a little something right there.
You look a little sick. I don't know what that is. So we kind of we get the first glimpse of Commander Donata kind of having a flip-flop here, where she tells the other commander that, like, hey, this guy, he's pretty crazy, and I think he's going to kill a lot of people, and maybe we shouldn't be behind him on this. And she kind of is like,